Worship Hearts episode, a podcast episode here on YouTube, also on Anchor and Spotify and Apple podcast. This is going to be an interesting conversation this evening. I think you shot me the idea a little while earlier this afternoon, and my response was plan on me playing the antagonist. And your response to my response was that you might surprise me.
Um, yeah, I might just surprise you.
Yeah. So I don't know if I should be nervous or excited or I don't know. I'm
Or
hoping to
or all of the above.
or all of the above. Yeah, hoping to have plenty of fun ammunition for little tidbits to put up on Facebook in the coming days and weeks. But yeah, this is our Memorial Day episode for 2022. This will be going up on Memorial Day if you're listening to it as it goes up. And first, let me start off by saying thank you to anyone who has served and for those who have served in the past and for the family that is left behind. For those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. It is you are not forgotten. You are not underappreciated or overlooked. It is
That's right. That's right.
we are indebted to you for that sacrifice, and we are forever and eternally grateful for that.
Yes.
Um, it's huge. We have plenty of military background in our family, and Um, some have been more impacted than others by their time in the service, and
Yeah.
still have people active in the service right now. And
Yes.
it's it's never an easy thing, but um, it's certainly humbling from my perspective to know that someone's willing to go and serve somewhere else to protect me and my family for the sake of uh, the country and for the sake of their family and mine.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll take it a little bit out of context, but Jesus himself said, "No greater love has anyone than a man lay down his life for his friends."
Absolutely.
And so we are grateful. We are grateful, truly grateful for those who have made the sacrifice and laying down their lives on behalf of their friends, family, and even their enemies. In most cases, those that have lost their lives in frontline work, whether it be military or frontline services, police, and other firefighters and other emergency personnel as well. So we do say thank you for this, for the sacrifices that were made, and uh, and also the availability for us to take time and memorialize and to remember those who have served in such a way. So thank you, and thank you to the families that uh, get to hear and get to listen and get to share in the freedoms that those sacrifices have provided. So
Absolutely.
we are truly grateful.
Yeah. Um, one of those most important freedoms, in my opinion, is the freedom to worship however and wherever we want to, and that even this podcast is derived from that freedom, and
Yes.
so it is all encompassing. We wouldn't get to do this if there hadn't been sacrifice ahead of. So, um, yeah. So, Dad, what are we talking about this week that has us so stirred up over something?
So simple.
Yeah, yeah,
So simple. Well, and I'll also add to the idea that we have been given the freedoms um, through the wisdom of those in leadership over the years in developing America, and to allow the worship to be available however you so choose to worship,
Yeah.
and in a lot of cases, whomever or whatever you
True.
choose to worship. So it's a great big freedom that we do get to share in America. Um, Although we may not agree with all of the ways that are being done, that's okay. That's what the America was founded upon, was the
Yeah.
availability and the opportunities to be able to do just that. So, um, with that in mind, yes, the, this idea, and I don't say preface, but I am gonna I'll throw out this little disclaimer here. The opinions expressed on Worship Hearts episodes are simply that, opinions. Now, most of them
But
will be backed up and based upon upon good, solid scriptural basis, and but for the most part, it is 40 plus years of experience and and life as we know it, and and simply put, some of this stuff is just my opinion, and when it needs to be settled as far as a biblical truth is concerned, we certainly do let the scripture speak for itself.
absolutely, absolutely.
So, so the simplicity of the question is, or the simplicity of the topic tonight is, um, ritual.
Yeah.
Ritual. In this episode of it going out Memorial Day weekend, there are a lot of things. I remember my grandparents um, celebrating is probably not really a most accurate description, but at least memorializing what they call May Day throughout the month of May in different aspects. And that is memorializing those that have passed on in the activity of being in the military or in frontline work.
Yeah.
So there were several rituals that were involved in the process. Um, the simplest of them was just simply going and sprucing up the graveyards,
Mm.
sprucing up the the headstones, sprucing up the place that so that people could come and give homage and remembrance to their loved ones, and even to those that they may not even have known. The big part of that was um, my mama and papa. Uh, their her parents started a community in western Arkansas, and so the cemetery was named after the community, which was started by this particular clan of people, and it kept its name. And so for them to go and memorialize and remember meant that they were not just remembering those that did serve in military and frontline work, but also those who have just simply gone on before. And
Yeah.
so they would go and clean up the cemetery, make it presentable throughout the month of May, and put new flowers down, maybe plant real flowers. Tulips and calla lilies, all kinds of other things, roses, and all kinds of other beautiful, beautiful flowers that were all trimmed and pieced together. So it kind of got me thinking about this particular holiday, or can I say holy day, as we call it, Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
We call it a holiday because it's been set aside by the U.S. government to be a memorialization, to be a remembrance. We do it with a lot of other holidays.
Yeah.
We call them holidays because it's easier to say holy day, and and it also kind of takes the religiosity out of it. when we just call it a holiday instead of a holy day.
Right.
Um, but I don't know of any of these holidays that we celebrate, that we remember, that we memorialize, and yes, even this particular weekend that does not come with its own set of rules or guidelines or basic, yes, I'm going to say the term again, rituals that help us in this memorialization.
Okay.
So, how, what, why, where, who, all of the above, what do you do with that in your worship?
Yeah.
How does that impact your worship?
Sure.
And should it impact your worship as
Mm.
you come together as a family of believers in a local church?
Well,
That was a long way around just to get to that question, wasn't it?
are you wanting my answer now?
Go ahead.
Okay.
If you're ready with an answer,
Well,
you
I have bits and
you may have a question to throw back at me. I don't know.
I have bits and pieces of an answer. How's that?
Oh, okay.
Um, so, couple of thoughts surrounding this. Uh, one of the pastors that I served under, the church that he grew up in, for the 4th of July, would hang this massive American flag in front of the cross over the baptistry and above the stage, and it was all patriotic songs and these God bless America and
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
country, 'tis of thee, um the focus of the celebration for the 4th of July Sunday service was most certainly on the country, and it bothered him because the point of church was to come and worship God, and while we should be grateful for the opportunities that we have being in this country and being free, um, the whole point is to worship God first, regardless of our freedom status, frankly. Um,
Okay.
so
Good point.
there's that side of it. Um,
Well, I think the idea that you're looking for is what is known as nationalism. And in that regard, uh, can we as a society um, claim the same type of relationship in America as what the Hebrews did in their early days of their nationalism? And in their respect, uh, they were Jewish people. It wasn't just a religion, it wasn't just a nationalism, it was a people of God. And so a lot of times people can really get that confused. Um, and it's one of the things that we want to say the Jewish nation has come back together as a nationality
mhm,
or as a nation, as a people, not necessarily as uh, a people of God as a whole. And so there's a real juxtaposition when we try to do the same thing here in America, where we want to say this is one nation under God. We have to understand that uh, that phrase in the Pledge of Allegiance was added, I believe, in 1954. Uh, that the pledge itself used to just say one nation, indivisible, and on and so on. But we've added, um, I think I'm going to get my president wrong, but I think it was Roosevelt who had it added as one nation under God.
hmm,
And it's not that I disagree with the statement.
mhm,
Um, but there's a lot of people, a lot of times that we as a church people end up, yeah, here we go. Here we go. You ready? We end up hiding behind our nationalism as being Christianity.
Right.
Um, and and part of the problem is our lifestyle as a Christ follower can still be and can still mean that we love living in America.
Sure. Yeah.
But America is not being driven by uh, a nationalistic, godly emphasis any longer, and hasn't been for several years, a couple of decades at least, if not more. And yet we still want to hide behind this idea. I think in the aspects of, well, this is one nation under God, this is a it's a Christian nation, it is, these are the principles that we were established on. Yes, that part is true. It is the principles, the godly principles we were established on, but we have long forsaken them through a lot of the decisions that we have allowed to take place. And right now, frankly, everything is in such upheaval. It seems like what we have done is we've created even larger dividing lines as Christian people.
Yeah.
That we, you know, you're a Christian Republican, a Christian Democrat, a Christian Libertarian, a Christian Tea Party, a Christian. Stop.
Yeah.
Let's just be Christian.
Yeah.
And if we're going to be Christian, then let's be Christ-like.
Sure.
And that looks a whole lot different than being uh, a nationalistic person. Um, am I thrilled that I was born in the USA? Absolutely. Am I grateful? Absolutely. Do I like it all? Absolutely not. Because there are decisions that are being made that do not fall in line with the ideology of Christianity.
Yeah.
There are a lot of decisions that are being made that I have a responsibility to help with the democratic process to maneuver in some way, form, or fashion
Sure.
by voting, by being involved in grassroots movements, by having a podcast that says, "Hey, you know,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
it's okay to be American, but when it gets in the way of it being Christian, then we have turned the tide a little bit to shall and we can slippery slope it all the way into idolatry, and
Right.
it can get really crazy. It can get really crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not what, it's not what we want to do here. Worship arts, it's not what I want to be involved as an individual. I've had lots of conversations that I've just had to shut down people and say, look, I'm a Christian. My number one job, my number one obligation is to share Christ. And that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So as we look at this weekend, as we look at the memorialization of people and of sacrifices made, am I grateful? Yes, I'm
Absolutely.
absolutely grateful. But I'm also grateful for the opportunities that it's given me to be able to share Christ with people. And I can do that in lots of different ways, other than and outside of the four walls of the church, which is should be the number one thing we're doing anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and to remember and celebrate those who have sacrificed so much for us doesn't mean you agree with every war that's been fought in this country.
Oh,
It
yeah, that's correct.
it just means that you love and support that person and you appreciate their sacrifice. Like
Yes,
there's
yes.
we I listen to a lot of politics. I watch a lot of politics because I enjoy knowing what's going on. It's probably a little masochistic to an extent just because it can be its own black hole. You can
Yes.
really get sucked into it. But I like I like knowing what's going on in this country, especially when so many of those in DC are making decisions that are directly affecting my life on a daily
Right.
basis.
Absolutely.
But 99% of what goes on in DC doesn't amount to a hill of beans to my day to day. So,
Not
my
yet.
not well, it gas gas is still $4.50 a gallon.
Yeah.
Bread
Yeah.
is still $3 a loaf.
Yeah.
Milk is still $5 I mean, there's still things that are going on there, and have been influenced by what's going on there that directly
Correct.
affect me.
Yeah.
But I can have 100 times more impact on my local community by being involved in my local community than I will ever have sharing out some Ben Shapiro video on Facebook, or having an argument with somebody on Instagram over this or that, or
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know saying that Donald Trump should be back on Twitter, whatever the case is.
Or creating a little sound bite of somebody's, 7 seconds what they said in a
Yeah,
30-minute interview.
yeah.
That stuff just really gets old
But
real fast.
that's been one thing that I've tried to refocus on, especially over the last 6 months to a year or so, is my I try not to get too bogged down in the macro view, and pay more attention to my day to day in my local community and what's going on right here, right now.
Right.
Um, i- it's yeah. So I don't think this is quite the direction you intended this conversation to go. We end up where we end up, but to kind of bring this back to the church setting, and I think this was
Yes.
a part of what you were talking about, or at least a part of the direction you were wanting to go with this, is the we have rituals as Americans that we do, whether it's going to the graveyard on Memorial Weekend and cleaning things up and getting those together. But we also have rituals as Christians, as Christ followers, that tend to, at times, not to share too much of my bias, tend to become idolized, and tend to become more so the point of worship than God Himself. And uh, yeah, I guess that is my bias wholly and completely. My biggest apprehension to ritual is the risk of it becoming repetitive, mundane, same thing in and out over and over again. Like, ritual to me is or enough ritual to me is, um yeah, we're all going to meet together at the same time on Sunday morning, and that's enough. And if that changes, okay, let's change it. You don't like meeting at 9:30, let's meet at noon. you know you
Right.
don't like Sunday mornings, let's meet Thursday night. Like,
Right.
I am so apprehensive to any structure when it comes to ritual and religion, that I almost run from it at times. Um, and I've been involved in some churches that have idolized that ritual,
Correct.
and have made that ritual more so a priority than the act of worship itself, which is the whole point of gathering in the first place.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, the point is, let's meet.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, and yet even in that whole process, um, um, God took in creation, God took from chaos, from void, from out of nothingness, as it were, and created order. And He created order for our benefit.
Hmm.
And this is where part of this idea comes from, and so it's not that it's not that we do things ritualistically just to be doing things realistic, or we shouldn't be doing them just realistically. There are songs that we sing that we don't even we remember the words, but we don't remember the meaning of the words,
Yeah.
because they've gotten to be so repetitive and so uh, I don't want to say mundane or everyday, or that we have forgotten the gist of what is being said. And that's where, in your assessment, they can be idolization. That's where the problem really lies. It's not so much that there's a ritual that says, "Hey, we need to take up the offering at 10:13 every morning, or every Sunday morning, or whatever it is," or we sing three songs and then we do the offering, or we do, the ritualistic part of the process. Again, in that regard, gives people a place to belong. It gives people a place that's familiar.
Mhm.
It gives people a place where they can say, "I these are my people.
Yeah.
This is my tribe." Uh, there were 12 tribes of Israel. Do you think they all did the same thing in every tribe the same way? Well, when they came together to worship at the synagogue, there were things that were done very
Sure.
ritualistically. The meats that were offered were cut up specifically for a purpose, and it was for cleanliness, and it was to keep things from being tainted. It was to so that when the sacrifice was given, it was given in as much of a holistic and holiness as possible, as best we can humanly be
Right.
done. The grain offerings, the wave offerings, all of the different things that were done in a ritualistic setting were done for a purpose. But when they lost, as we find through Jesus having been here, and he turns the tables over in the temple, says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
you've taken the beauty of a ritual and have just mangled it, and disgustingly manipulated it to be a business practice instead of a prayer or a spiritual act of worship." And that's where the problem lies, is when we allow our rituals to get so stuck in ruts, I believe, that we really do lose sight of the purpose and the genuineness of what that ritual is really about. So,
Yeah. The and maybe that's the distinction for me is the difference between ritual and order, because I do believe that there should be order, in particular, or on the practical side of it, to a Sunday morning service. There should be an order to the service. There should be an idea of what's going to happen next. And there should be, like we've talked about in previous episodes, minimal disruptions and distractions from that order. But guess what? If a baby cries out in the middle of prayer because they're upset over something, you don't stop the service and start it completely over because you didn't do it right. I mean, like, there have to be some give and take in this process because we are human. We wanna do it to the best of our ability, but we're not gonna be perfect, and it's not gonna happen perfect every time.
yeah,
I don't
right,
know of a Sunday
right,
morning that I sang on key every week. I don't
right,
know of a Sunday morning that I played the right key or the right chord on the guitar every time, or stayed
right,
on beat behind the trap set.
right,
I mean,
right,
it and to get wrapped up in making sure that everything is perfect, again, takes the focus off of the reason we're gathering in the first place.
correct.
So I think that may be why I why I run away from the ritual aspect of it so much. Uh, understanding the need for the order of the service, but I'm okay if communion is an incredible opportunity for us to meet with God. It
Yes.
is it is the essence of a it is the fulfillment of the law in grace form for us, and we
Mm.
get to share that
Yes.
as a congregation, and it's
Yes.
incredible and it's powerful. It does not have to happen every Sunday morning.
Well, um, here I might be the antagonist on this one.
Okay.
Because the simplicity of it is this, even in that regard, um, the Eucharist had been being performed um, long before Jesus came around because it was a tradition.
Right.
It was a ritual for the Passover. It was a part of the Passover meal. That's what that was all about. It was a what? A memorialization of what had happened in the past and what God had brought the people through. Jesus then comes around and says, "Okay, we're going to do this, but I'm going to show you a couple extra things here." And remember, he took the towel off of his own waist, or he took his own clothes off and wrapped the towel around his waist and washed the disciples' feet. An act of service, an act of servanthood. Um, Jesus Christ, God incarnate, washing our dirty feet, washing our unholiness.
Yeah.
And it was yet that was a ritual to be done by a servant when there was a party or when there was a gathering done as well. And Jesus took that upon himself to do that, not just for us, but as an example for us.
Mhm.
Then they continued on with the meal. Then they continued on with the Passover process. Then they, and he comes to this point in the meal and then breaks the bread and gives of himself. He pours the wine, the juice, the whatever.
It was wine.
It was wine. Uh, he pours he pours the wine and he gives of himself. And then he says these words: "Whenever you do this, remember me."
Mhm.
So, is that weekly? Is that daily? Is it monthly? Is it annually? Is it only happen at the Passover feast? Because that was the feast in which he said it. That was the one in which we have the words written down. Whenever you do this, yeah. And there's a lot of school of thought in the process of how many times it needs to be done and how many times it needs to be ritualistically set up to be if it's once a week. So the whole point of that is the memorialization of the gift that was being given. It is when we do this, when we share the broken bread and the wine, remember what it is.
Yeah.
Truly a form of symbolism to represent the sacrifice that was being made. And we can even get to the point where we idolize even that sacred moment. And again, we can do it too often. Sometimes that it gets, you know, too much. We just, oh, okay, it's another Sunday or it's another Monday or another Thursday, whatever. We can get it to where it doesn't mean the same anymore. And that's a fear, that's a concern when it has everything to do with our relationship with God.
Yeah.
and our holy, or our relationship with a holy God, which is truly based upon who he is and who we allow him to be in us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So it doesn't matter how many times you do
As long as
it.
it is being done in the right mindset, as long as it's being done with the in the right heart of the moment, um, and in the right um, idea. I'm probably not saying the right definition, but
Yeah. The right
uh,
mindset, the right heart set.
yeah, it's not just about multiplicity as much as it is. It's not just the quantity; it's what also the quality
Yeah.
which the event is taking place. So, there's lots of other rituals that are set up um, in the church and in church work. Um, and there's a lot of rabbit trails that we can go down here. Do we turn the lights down while we're praying? Do we have them up while we're doing bump songs or fast songs? Do we turn up, do we have a smoke machine? Do we have, is there a, a, a bell? I went to a church. This was several years back. But there was a bell ringer, literally a bell ringer that gave a 5 minute ring of a little bell, bing a ding ding, went through the whole church building 5 minutes before Sunday school was up to let everybody know, hey, it's time to stop what you're doing and studying the Word of God, and we're moving into the worship time,
Yeah.
or we're moving into the service time. When those kinds of things, that's when it really can get kind of crazy, and we can miss out on some really good healthy relational time with each other as well as with God.
So I just had a thought, and you can. I would. We're almost 40 minutes in, so I don't want to rabbit trail too much. But uh, our tithes and offerings
Hmm.
are a commandment, correct? So 10% of what we earn goes back to God. That's why we tithe, right?
Okay.
Is communion a commandment?
Oh, Jesus said, every time you do this, remember me.
It just said,
The,
"When you do it, remember me." He
when,
didn't
that's right.
say,
That's
"Do
right.
this,"
Yeah.
and
Well, do this in remembrance of me. Yeah.
right.
Um,
I
the
just we never forget to take the offering when we gather together as a church, but there's always an argument over whether or not we celebrate the Eucharist every week. So, I'm just playing into that idolization of money element that we Westerners tend to, gravitate towards. If there's anything there that we could pick apart a little bit.
Oh, I'm sure there's something there we can pick apart, but I'll just kind of say it this way. Um, really great man of God, colleague of mine, um, said it this way, and I think we can say a lot of it, that we can reference it with a lot of the quote unquote realist rituals and memorialization and the order of service thing. I think we can tie them all together in this statement, because he says this about tithes. um, Tithe is not about money. Tithe is about faith.
Yeah.
Tithing is about faith.
Mhm.
And with that, it becomes, or the natural response then, and there are several aspects, several scriptures that talk about a tenth, the first fruits of whatever, and some of that's old law and Levitical law and other things of that nature. Some of it is Old Testament, um, standards, and good recommendations. There's a lot of things that we can glean from the Scripture that are really good and healthy if we obey them, if we follow through with them. That happens to be one of them. But it's more than just it being a ritual. It is an element of faith, because if we're supposed to bring our first fruits, it doesn't always mean money.
Yeah.
It sometimes means product
Mhm.
and or produce. Um, Sometimes it means agriculture or livestock. So the things that we put our hands to be in business, the idea was, okay, I'm going to bring the first results of the toil and the hard work that I put into this as an honoring of my relationship, and as a faith promise to God that says, okay, here's what we've been working for this whole time, these last 6 months, these last 8 months, and now it's coming to fruition. And as a thank you and as a great offering of gratitude, here's the first 10.
Yeah.
Okay. Here are the first fruits. And then you can get into all kinds of discussion and debates, if you want to call it that, if it needs to be gross or net or whatever. The point still is, tithing is about faith, it's not
Yeah.
about money.
Yeah.
So when we tie that then into the rituals and the order that we use and we do inside our churches, hopefully, prayerfully, mindfully, heartfully, we are seeking the same result, and that everything that we do then creates an element of a faith process that continues to build our faith in the relationship with a holy God.
Mm.
And if that is um, uh, having a prayer at the beginning of the service, or waiting until it's where there's a time of decision from the sermon that is being presented, or whether it's just a matter of saying, hey, we're going to take some time at 10:13 or at 9:47 every day, every Sunday, to do this or to do this. However you want to set up your order of service or order of worship, that's fine. Don't make it, though, don't idolize the order, okay? Worship the object of your affection, worship the God who's giving you the direction for the order of service or in that process. So, tithing is not about money, it's about faith. Communion, the Eucharist, the offering of the sacraments and the partaking of the sacraments is is not about the sacraments. It's about faith, and it's about our relationship with God, and who we see and who we understand who we are
Yeah.
in comparison or in connection with who he is.
Yeah.
So I hope that answered your question.
No, it does. It does, definitely. I I was probably trying to look for more than what we really needed to get into there, so trying to pick on some ideas a little bit, but,
Oh, there's
uh
lots of them there to pick on.
oh, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm tempted to roll this thought process into a second episode, because I feel like we're just scratching the surface on some of these ideas and
Sure.
thought processes. So, um,
Well,
man,
hold on for the next episode then.
that's it. That's it.
Come back next Friday.
We've already got. I was looking at your notes here. We've got some scripture references that I think are important to get into, and some more ideas surrounding this ritualistic element. So yeah, be sure you are available exactly at 10 a.m. next Friday in order to listen to next Friday's episode at 10 a.m. on Friday, right? That's the ritual.
Right here at 10 a.m. on Friday.
And you can find
Where
it.
wherever your podcast desires.
That's right. It is, the Worship Hearts podcast. It is on YouTube. Uh, we also have, a Facebook page and a website, worshiphearts.org, where you can find more information about us and more of what we've got going on. We do have a couple more ready weekends, worship workshops of sorts, in the
Yep.
works, and we'll be coming to you with those dates as soon as we have them ironed out and nailed down, to use all the analogies.
Yeah.
But as always, you can find this podcast on Facebook. um, Not on Facebook. You can find us on Facebook. You can find the
Yeah.
podcast, on Anchor and Spotify and Apple Podcast, and, you can find us on YouTube as well. Thank you so much for listening this week. Stay tuned to next week when we talk more about rituals, and I'm sure have more fun discussion about what we disagree on when it comes to rituals. But, yeah, Dad, thanks for, jumping on here, and thanks for bringing an interesting point this evening for discussion, because, I do think this is something that all churches deal with on the regular, and all leaders deal with on a regular, right? Uh, I'm looking forward to digging into it some more next time, so
All right.
well, there you have it. Until next week, until next time, thanks so much for listening. We'll see y'all later.
Bye now.